Fortune.
Fortune. That's right. I should remember that. Right? And Bob
Perry.
Perry. Why can't I remember names? Rowan Cecil.
Good girl.
And Joe Chambers. And we've got Laura Banda on the pressure's on, right? On the video. We need to have a pledge of allegiance. And I wonder if Joe would you lead us in that?
I pledge allegiance to
To the
the flag
Or
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We need to have approval of the minutes. Everyone have a chance to go over those?
Yep. Yeah, look good to me.
Okay.
I move that the minutes for August 26, 2020 be approved.
Do you have a second?
I second that.
Michael with the second, Roland with the motion. Joe?
There's 5, I'm just an alternate.
Okay.
Participate in the discussions, but I don't get to vote.
Right. But you looked like you were going to say something.
Oh, I just-
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.
Kathleen, I abstained because I was absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for public comment. And this is for people who wish to give their views on anything going on with the commission. So do we have anyone here to comment on any? And Scarlett's looking up to see if there's anyone who's emailed. Okay, so in the absence of any public comment, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting and we'll go to the administrative action. So we've been asked to consider for approval a request to amend the final plat for Providence Hollow subdivision phase 3 by relocating the irrigation easement on lot number 2, parcel 02-295-0302, located at 575 East Spring Creek Parkway. So just a relocation of the,
Yeah, so it's just kind of a readjustment of
Right.
how that easement fit on that lot. And it seemed like it looked good.
look reasonable.
Yes.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I would make the motion that we approve the request to amend the final plat for Providence Hollow subdivision phase 3 for the relocation of the irrigation easement on lot 2.
Okay, do we have a second?
May I make one comment?
Yes.
One of the things that state code says is that the planning commission needs to find good cause for amending the plat.
Okay.
So as part of your motion, I just need you to articulate why you feel like it's a good cause.
Okay, I don't have, when I looked at it and it was, it kind of went at an angle is the way the easement looked originally, and it's in the paperwork that we received, some of the attachments and stuff. And basically what it does is it moves it to conform more right to the property line and adjust it so that the property as it gets developed gives a little more room for that. It's what it looked like, appeared to me. Having to have done that once before myself on a piece of property, I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. He's got the drawings there. Yeah. there's a before and this is the existing, and then there's one other that shows the. Maybe it's on the other side. Yeah,
Shows where the
this
line
shows,
is.
this shows what they're changing it to. All right.
Okay.
One shows it existing and one shows the adjustment. And I think it's just really make it a little bit smaller and the pipe they install and so forth. So it looked reasonable to me, and I think even in their comments, it says to be able to utilize the lot more appropriately, more options.
Okay, is that good enough? Okay. So we have a motion by Michael Fortune, second.
I'll second.
Okay, Rowan Cecil, second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
thank you. All right, the next thing on our agenda is we need to review an application submitted by Visionary Homes for a proposed rezone of parcel 02-096-0054 located in the general area of 50 North Gateway Drive. The property is currently zoned commercial general. The applicant is requesting multifamily medium. Okay, do we have anyone here?
We do,
To
just a
comment?
couple comments.
Okay,
Today is just a discussion, and then we'll schedule it for public hearing.
okay,
And then after the public hearing is when you can make a recommendation to city council. But today's just an information meeting so that you can see and have time to go look at it before the public hearing. We didn't have the luxury of doing that for a little bit with the COVID restrictions, but now that we're kind of meeting as a group and stuff again, we can probably do this a little, give you a discussion and then a public hearing.
Great. Okay, thank you. So,
Question for
Yeah, and
Charlotte.
this has been Steele. He's with Visionary Homes, so he's here to speak to you on this.
come and speak to us.
Pleasure.
Everybody's
wait.
coming up. Okay,
Okay, to approach this bench here.
yes, state your name.
My name is Ben Steele. I'm a resident of Whitney, up in Franklin County. And it's a pleasure to be here and speak about this particular project. I know the Planning Commission is probably familiar with the projects to the south of this particular proposed site. The project that Visionary Homes is responsible for. This is a standalone project, really. It's a different project, different project manager. I was not the project manager that worked on this particular one to the south. 3.2 acres. I'm sure everybody's seen the layout and has an idea of where it is, just down the street here on the east side. What we're proposing is a change from the commercial zone to a multifamily medium density, which would give us, I think, a max of 12 units per acre. This particular layout, this conceptual layout that you see before you, maximizes that density. At the same time, one of the concerns that I had looking at the previous project to the south was just really a lack of open space generally. You know, and you have to have a lack of open space to get those kind of densities, and the zoning allowed it. And so I think the project to the south more or less perfectly matches the zone, and I think does a good job in doing that. But going forward, this next acreage, we'd like to see it complement that to the south, maybe even alleviate some of that. It's a little tight in there from my perspective. And what we've done here is we've changed, one of the bigger things we've changed is the driveway envelopes. They're a minimum of 20 feet for all of them except for the products there in the middle. So a 20 to 24 foot driveway really opens up the project a lot more. Also that 3/4 acre, I'm calling it a mini quad park, I think will go a long way to bring open space, not just to those 38 townhomes that we're proposing here to the north, but also be a benefit to that higher density. I think it's 18 units the acre that it was, maybe it was 18 or 19, I can't remember what that zone allows. You're 18. it'll allow that density to kind of be a little bit subsidized with that. So that park could be utilized by all the residents. Since Visionary Homes would be in control of everything, the same HOA could be utilized to manage the whole project. These residents could benefit from the clubhouse, and the pool, and the basketball hoop, and all those amenities that project contains already to the south.
How big is that?
The piece that we're proposing,
Yeah.
it's about 3.2 acres is all. Right now, it's just vacant. To the north of it, there's a church. To the east, there's a school, and just south and to the east, the city actually owns a little strip of ground. South, I don't know if you're familiar with that. The city has title to a little strip of ground that runs almost kitty corner to this piece, running this way. I don't know if we pulled up another, you got a Kathleen,
Is it,
Sherry, you've got a puzzled look on your face.
I'm just trying to visualize where that is.
Yeah,
Um,
and the other reason why I bring that up,
Pardon me?
South of
so if you got the school
Okay.
property, it looks contiguous with the school property. There's no
Okay.
dividing fence or anything. But you do, if you look at the parcel map, you'll see you have a parcel
Okay.
there. I bring that up because there's some discussions about possibly tying in a trail through from the east over to, and it would likely fall through to the south of this project and kind of go through the south end of that mini quad park space. About three quarters.
And can I interrupt you 1 second?
Absolutely, please do anytime.
If the members would like to look at this map that was included in the packet, the piece that Ben was just referring to that the city owns is this yellow rectangle right here, almost to the bottom of the page.
It runs wide, but it's kind of a short
It's the
piece.
south portion of the soccer field. The school owns the north and we own the south portion. So that's the little rectangle he's talking about, Kathleen.
And I'm not finding that.
It's right up on the screen.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, if you look right where that cursor is. My highlighter does not, as soon as it hits that monitor, it doesn't light up. I'm sorry. The cheap highlighter, I guess, cheap laser,
No, there's something on the screen that,
prevents it. So there's a possibility there. And there's been some discussion started with the mayor and others on the possibility of doing that. As a developer, we're very open to the connectivity, and we could, if that becomes a viable option, we can discuss who might be liable to pay for such a thing. But we're open to that. I think it would be a nice amenity to the overall project there.
That behind Mark Thompson.
One other thing that I might bring up before the body, if you allow me, is something different that we're proposing here that Visionary hasn't done here in the cache, we have done elsewhere, is those units that are facing Gateway Drive. We're proposing that we put a commercial component to those units. I realize the reluctance for cities to rezone out of commercial space. There's historically been, I used to be a commercial developer prior to the Great Recession. That's what I did. Exclusively was commercial development out of the Treasure Valley. So it's something it's near and dear to me, but it's something that has changed quite a bit over the years. Retail, commercial in general is very different, but retail specifically has changed immensely. In fact, COVID has really exacerbated those changes. And so we're seeing, I spoke this week with Ryan Reeves and Eric Jensen and a few other brokers in the Valley that do a lot of commercial stuff. Just wanted to get their pulse because they're doing it every day. And they're seeing a real change in our commercial field, and what we use as commercial, especially retail. We're seeing that service-oriented commercial will probably stay viable, in the near and the long term, but retail-oriented commercial will wane and become less and less of a thing. In fact, there are some developers out there that are even spelling the doom and demise of big box everything, including grocery stores. They think that grocery stores are actually going to start being smaller and more close to the community just because of the COVID. Now, we don't know. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball and nobody can guess that. But given that the fact
You
that,
had one.
yes, yeah, but for
That
many
would be
reasons,
really
for
helpful.
many reasons, for this right here. But given that, taking this out of commercial, I realize that reluctance. So our thoughts are, why don't we add a little commercial component? Your multifamily medium density allows a lot of uses. I'm actually surprised at how many uses it allows. And I sent an email this morning. It wasn't as timely as I wanted it to be. We're still fleshing out some of these issues in-house. I think just trying to get enough people on board for the idea, because it's a little bit out there. But in looking over your zonage, you allow a lot of, most of them are conditionally approved, but there are some permitted uses, even retail and related uses that could possibly be used here. And so what we propose is those units, those 8 units along Gateway, be a work-live product. Has anybody heard of the work-live? Familiar with that? Maybe Mr. Chambers is, I don't know.
I have.
You know, you have, okay. There's on Second East, on the Four Seasons project, which is between, is it 22nd and 24th? Kind of up there on the north end of Second East. Where Deloitte Hansen developed the Four Seasons project. Within that, they actually did some work-live products right off Second East. And driving to work, as I come from Whitney, where I live, down to North Logan, where our office is, just across the street from Sports Academy, I would drive by those every day. And for a long time, I thought to myself, man, must be a pretty poor idea, because they're still sitting there, they're languishing on the market. And it was that way for a couple months, and even into the COVID. And then all of a sudden they were gone within a matter of weeks. And so I had to call and find out. It took me a little bit to track down who to actually talk to. But I found out that the reason why they languished on the market is because once they had overlooked financing, because of the commercial component to the work-live unit, the typical financing for just a residential home, they were a little bit skittish, not sure exactly how to go about it. Once they overcame that hurdle, then they flew off the shelf. And the agent that I spoke to that helped move them all said that those prices were probably a little underpriced. So at the end, we probably could have bumped the price up to meet the market once we figured out the financing problem. But they just, it was Youngblood that bought that whole project and developed it out on his own, and they just wanted to move them and get done. And so, but I've actually submitted some pictures of those, and maybe I have an elevation. I don't know if we can put those on the screen. Okay. I have an elevation in there of a work-live product that we are currently building. We haven't started building it, but we're currently going to build it. We're just finishing the horizontal improvements right now in Lake. It's just right next to the base. And it's going to be, to my knowledge, the first work-live units that we're building. That particular picture that you're looking at, Chairperson, there is those ones off of Second East. And if you drive down Second East, you'll notice that all the other buildings in the Four Seasons look a similar way. These look a little bit different. They've actually, you'll notice there that they've put a place there in the building where to accommodate some signage. And there is one place there that's got a little bit of a sign there. Tons of flexibility on how you do this, on how this commission, how the city council, and how the rest of staff would like this to turn out. I envision something very similar to what's been done on Second East in Logan, but it would be more like the elevation that we submitted with this packet. They're 3 stories, and the first floor is a garage and basically the commercial component. The second floor is your great room, your family room, and your kitchen and a guest bedroom. And then the upstairs, the 3rd floor, is where you have your other bedrooms. It's a really nice layout. That's the one right there. So the spacing that we put on the actual conceptual plan meets those specs, meets that size. And like I said, the city could decide which uses you like. I mean, the zone allows whatever uses permitted and conditionally. We could write into the development agreement specifically uses that you don't want to see there, even though it allows it in the zone. We could write in there uses that you would like to see there, so we can control that. Now, those units in Logan, they've made those so they're kind of broken up. So some of those units, the owner owns the live part of the house and the work part. Some of the owners that have bought are now leasing out the work section, and some people have bought both, and now they're leasing out both to 2 different people. And so there's a lot of flexibility there on how this could potentially work. But I like how that keeps a certain commercial feel to what you guys have heretofore had as a commercial zone. I do believe that the highest and best use for this property is what we're asking for, is the multifamily medium density with that commercial component. I don't think you can do better as far as efficiencies on this particular piece of land. And given the circumstances that surround us, both commercial waning a little bit, changes in the economy, and almost an insatiable demand right now for affordable housing for those first-time home buyers, which most of these homes will likely go to. They'll go to, those that don't really want a yard to take care of, but want some nice amenities and don't need a lot of space. Potentially to residents already here in Providence, maybe new residents. Be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, so this is reflective of what you're going to build, but there's no space for commercial.
Yes. Now, if you look at the bottom floor, there's a
Right.
family room. That would be the commercial component.
Okay,
So the home actually could be built with no commercial component, but it has the opportunity to be. So we've designed it to be flexible. The ones in Layton don't have to have the work component. The city's not mandating it. So if they could be all sold as regular townhomes, but they have that extra ability to have that commercial component.
so
And-
zoned so they can have a commercial.
Exactly. The land use, entitled such that you could do that. And what I've seen over here is like a beauty place, a little bakery. I anticipate a lot of professional type atmosphere here. Accountant, maybe an attorney.
About
Customer parking,
how would that accommodate?
we've anticipated that. Now, there would be, I believe there is parking. There would be some parking in front, but we put that parking lot, if you look at the conceptual design, we put a little bit of parking behind in the alley there to accommodate guest parking. That would come. There's usually, in these smaller work live units, there's not a lot of traffic. If there is a dance studio, it's one or two students, not a whole group. In fact, your zone even calls for that in your use. You could have a studio, art, dance, drama, photography, one or two students at a time. Now, these units aren't big enough to accommodate. It's not a warehouse. You're not going to have inventory stored there. This is geared towards your professional, an accountant, a lawyer. Some of the other uses here, you've actually got in here physicians, dentists, chiropractors, dressmakers, seamstresses, tailors, upholsterers, and related artists, artisans, craftsmen, food prep, bakery, barber, beauty shop, laundry, pet
Upholsterers
grooming.
would never live in that. I've never been to an upholstery
So
shop.
some uses will not be conducive to some of the retail for sure. I'm thinking that there's at least 8 out there in the marketplace that would be able to benefit from this work and really take advantage of it and make good use of it. Those are the ones on Second East.
Does this reflect 3 floors?
No, those are 2 stories. Yeah, that's what they built there. So I haven't been in those. I don't know what their floor plans look like. I don't think they had any 4 bedrooms, which ours would be, because there's a guest on the main and there's 3 upstairs. So I'm not sure. And the square footage is actually smaller on those 2, but they do have a balcony. Our floor plan calls for a balcony as well. The difference is on that particular thing, I believe they had more window frontage. So I think the window goes all the way down the door. So you can have the frontage look more like a home. So that front window, if you look at the elevation that I sent you of that potential build in Layton, it looks like a regular window on the first floor. To make it a little more commercial, you can drop that window down to the floor. So there's a window storefront. There's a lot of things you can do to either make it more commercial or less. And I really, like I said, I was very skeptical of this product when I started working for Visionary in January at the first of the year. And it wasn't too long afterwards that I saw those and I was a little skeptical, but I think I've changed my tune a little bit on them. I think that there's a place for them. And I think that they would do really well in a semi-urban feel, which I think this is. If for retail to go here is a really big challenge. What we've got going on right at the Y is a new office building, and you haven't seen it yet, but there are going to be retail pads out in front of that one. The new Marriott has retail pads out in front of it. You can see all the way through those, right? You can stand on one side of the building and you can look through the window and you can see through the other side. So it'll take some time for those vacancies to fill, especially with the new stuff that's coming on. I don't see this as being a viable commercial piece as the way that it sits in the zone that it sits. And that's why we propose the change and open it to discussion. I want to keep answering any questions that you might have.
One question. I haven't been there in that area for a while, but I remember it was either this piece or this piece had a little cut on the curb. Was that a driveway or could it be this road here?
No, there is a curb cut almost right where the road is now. There is a curb cut to get in there. And I don't know who built that. My guess is the Forest Pool, or maybe it came in when the city built that road. You know, going back and looking at what happened here, on the property right now, there's a little bit of almost in this area right here, there's a little bit of a wet spot. And if I go back on Google Earth, I can see the impaction that was created. This was all one field before Gateway came in. And you can see how when Gateway came in, you can see how there was an impact there. And there's water that comes from the school on the east side, flows in a pipeline all the way over to there, but the pipeline is broken. So it doesn't make its way all the way underneath Gateway.
So that curb cut, that was a dead end, I think. It met the fence or maybe some houses to the east.
You know, I'm not sure. Are you talking about the curb cut on Gateway
Yeah.
itself?
It came
Yeah.
in from the Gateway. I think the discussion happened sometime in the middle of the winter, and we were discussing with Jeff about people pulling into that driveway thinking it was going to go into the new development.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know whether that was blocked off, and I thought maybe it would have been this.
Well, that one's open now. The one that your finger's running now,
Yeah.
that one's paved, and
Okay.
there's tradesmen that park all along there that go working on those two condo buildings right now. But
That was a previous curb cut before?
you know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was previously
Talking
covered.
about first down.
No. No, it happened, it was either here or here, but I think it was this one right here. Yeah, Rob was questioning whether we should block it off, gate it off, or.
I think that's this road, right at this intersection. It's not the top road, but if you can see right down here, it's not actually a through road and it doesn't come to the street.
Yeah.
And so that's what, it comes to the sidewalk, but doesn't come to the street.
Right,
There's not a
correct.
curb cut there. There is curb continuous through. But that's where we don't want a road to turn out being a through road.
Okay, so there is not a curb cut there right now, but
I'd have to check, but I
Okay.
don't believe, and we did not want you to cut the curb in order for this, so that this didn't have a through.
we don't want traffic. We don't want traffic entering the project.
So
No, for sure not.
I think that's what we talked about previously.
I can follow up on that and
I
find
think it
out.
was, yeah.
I think that's what you're talking
So this is how many, is this the proposed layout,
Yes.
the colored part?
Yes. I mean, it's a little bit different color than the one I have, so maybe is just one slightly version older than mine, but I don't think there's anything substantially different.
about.
Yeah,
And there are how many units?
there's 38 total. 8 on Gateway there, that would be the work live, and then 30.
So medium density would allow 12 per acre. But they're not gonna be 12 per acre,
Should be 12.
10 per acre.
We might be a little under, you're saying. We're just, if you take 3.2 times 12, it's 38.4. Actually lays out quite nicely with that particular density, I think.
And the green part is the park.
Yes, yeah, and it's laid out here on the south of the project because it really ties itself to everything else that's on the
Right.
south. If you go on site now, you'll see that these sidewalks are in, and it's just going to be nice to tie those two together. It'd be all contiguous. You wouldn't know that there was, you know, that these were different projects, although it will still a little more open, from the south to the north. Just a little more space. little more driveway. Our previous conceptual layouts had a road. I hope you don't mind if I approach this. Probably should have asked you guys, but
We need to talk loud enough so we can get into that mic.
okay. We had it where this road circled around and didn't have the same open space. And we just wanted more open space. You know, in any of my talks with any of the city council members, that was one of the main things that they felt needed to be there. I even heard a couple of negative things about the project to the south, you know, and I didn't take offense at it at all. Because I know how it is. Sometimes you think something is the way it is. And the only reservation I have is hold your final judgment until it's all done. That's all. That's my only point. Because, you know, a lot of the open space and the amenities haven't gone in yet. And it will look a little different. I know it's dense and it's tight. And that's what the zoning was designed to do. And, but it isn't quite finished. When it gets finished, I'm hoping that maybe some of those opinions will elevate.
Well, it feels really tight with no place for any kids to play.
So when that clubhouse gets done, the playground, and I think they're putting in a pool there too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I noticed, you know, on the street to the south of the project, the front of those homes, they have a huge setback, a big front yard. It just looked like some of the places got the open space and some got a little bit tighter.
So you say parking along this area here.
You know, I don't see a problem with that. I don't know if the city has a problem with that. Right now, there is parking allowed on Gateway. You know, if you go to the project on Second East, there's not a lot of traffic. It's not like a grocery store. It's one customer here. If say there was an accountant's office, you'd see a client here and there. So there'd be continually traffic throughout the day, but not a lot of it.
I know when I
There's no
drive
laws
there.
that have people. You know, if you look at the family room, that's not a big space. There's a lot of people pile in it. If every unit had a commercial component, that
When I drive north to south on that road,
On Gateway.
you come around the corner first.
Yep.
Right here.
Yep.
And then next is the roundabout. Then next is you gotta make another curve past the church. So it's kind of that's gonna be slowing down traffic, I think, a little bit. I don't know how much that's gonna affect.
But you put some cars on the side of the road, it slows down traffic even more.
Yeah.
You're right. There is a nice curve. That's why I like to take Gateway. When I'm coming from my office, going out to a project that I have in Nibley, I got a couple projects out in Nibley. I never take Main Street. It's second all the way down. Even though in front of the temple there's a stop sign, I gotta wait forever. Stop. But I take this one. And the fun is as soon as you get past the light and come down Gateway because you've got the roundabouts and curvy.
Oh, there's no traffic light up.
Yeah, that light.
Sometimes that.
The little park that they're be responsible, HOA, to
Absolutely.
take care of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the HOA taking care of that. Gotta spend those HOA fees on something. And what better to spend them on than the green space?
Have you thought about, are you gonna put a playground, something in there?
We're open to the idea. I haven't planned anything yet. Can always add more to the canvas. As long as we get the roads and the density and all that figured out, there's always room. Like I said, there's the potential to bring a trail through here, and the trail would likely come up through and go on the south end of that open space as it connects to Gateway.
Looks nice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
What kind of
Um,
projected price point? I
You
know
know,
that's hard.
It is hard, especially for me, where I don't get into the sales and the numbers very often. So I hear of numbers once in a while. I think
Affordable housing is important.
it is. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, what that would be. I'd be more than happy to drill down on that. Get back to you. That's important to you. Visionary Homes is obviously going to want to be affordable, for that first time home buyer. Now, I understand that these townhomes to the south aren't the cheapest in the valley. That there are some that are a little cheaper, but it is Providence. We are a little closer to the action here. And you can go out to Hiram and get something a little cheaper. But I don't know, Providence has a nice feel to it. I've never lived here, but I wouldn't mind living here. I've always enjoyed the River Heights, Providence part of the Cache Valley. Just a different feel here. I'll get back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll drill down on that. I know that these units on Second East went from 265 to 279. What the price was. Now that's a 2 and a 3 bed. That would be a little bit bigger than that. And there should be a premium for Providence property over Logan, so we got to factor that in as well. But other than that,
Trying to pay them.
we're going to do everything we can to keep the price at market. At that entry point for those home buyers that are just wanting to get in, because they are lined up. They're lining up from California, Oregon, and Washington to come into Utah and Idaho. So it behooves us to prepare ourselves for that onslaught. One of the brokers made the comment today that I was thinking of. I think it was Ryan Reeves. We got a little bit political. We talked this upcoming election, and I asked him. I said, "So how do you see this playing out with either Biden or Trump? If we go Biden, how does it play out? If we go Trump, how does it play out?" And in his mind, it's where we are and with the fundamentals that we have here. It doesn't matter which way we go politically. We're going to have a lot of work to do, a lot of demand. There's still going to be, either way, if you go one way, he said, you're going to have people trying to get out of the cities. And if you go the other way, we're going to have plenty of work to do. And so I think the point is that as a city, you're poised excellently to take advantage of that demand, and put together some really smart growth. And even, I don't know if Providence considers themselves a little bit progressive, but this work-live unit is a little bit cutting edge. It's a little bit on the forefront. It's a little flexible. Like I said, that financing was a little bit of an issue. I'm glad that someone else already paved the way on that particular front, and we'll be able to piggyback on that, take advantage of the fact that financing is in place, a lot easier for those future.
Anybody else have any questions?
Question for Scarlett. Is the executive staff look at this? Yeah.
Yeah, they've seen it. From an executive staff's point of view, we have to pretty much follow your general plan. So we can't necessarily make a recommendation that's contrary to the general plan.
No, what I was going to ask was the fire department, they don't see a problem with the way the road is laid out.
We have not got into the design, the review of the design. But there was
They gave some comment, didn't they, Scarlett? Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Walker has seen it. But we will work with, if you choose to go this direction, which is it's a pretty interesting play on our mixed use, actually. It's achieving the same goal without the minimum percentages, which technically gives them more flexibility for them to do. And so it would be an interesting thing to see how it plays out. It would probably give us an idea of how valid mixed use really is.
Would you say it's close to the LCR zone that we've been kicking around for a while?
No, because in the LCR zone, you pretty much wanted to keep that residential. We talked about maybe allowing some home businesses and things like that, but that's something you haven't really got into and looked at. So no, this is more just a multifamily area with commercial mixed into it, just like the mixed use is designed to do on kind of a smaller scale than the actual, the mixed use. To make it functional, you've got to have quite a few units. But to be able to do it with our permitted and conditional units as businesses, it's pretty good idea.
So it could be either one. That's what makes it attractive.
Well, yeah, and what makes it attractive for doing it with multifamily medium and with those conditional and permitted uses is that they don't have to meet the 20% of your units have to be retail or 20% of your units have to be this. They can really work with the people and get what they need, get a good product instead of a forced product.
I believe across the street is zoned for mixed use, isn't it?
It is right now.
Mr. Perry, just to speak to the fire, we will meet all those conditions. But I just looked over what they proposed, and we don't have any problem with anything that they've lined up. That's
Yeah.
what's standard.
My concern was the way the road was laid out. You know, you're doing a curve, another curve, through the roundabout a little bit further south, and then another curve in front of the church. I didn't know whether that was going to slow traffic down or be a hindrance to the businesses or maybe parking. Of
No,
course,
I
not
think,
around by the roundabout.
no, we're far enough around for the roundabout. That you wouldn't see
Yeah.
traffic there. You know, there is a large church parking lot. But I doubt they would probably let them on us to use it. would they?
Yeah,
We'll refrain from trying to share the parking.
They'll strenuously refer.
I'm sure that they will. They really agree with that. Is there any other questions before the body that I can
I just
answer?
have one comment. I like the idea. I like the concept. I worked with Logan years ago on what they looked at for their downtown as walkable community, downstairs retail, above living. So I think it's a good idea. I like this one. It's almost like micro retail. I like that aspect. All those things about it, I think are very good, especially those at front to Gateway. I think the only issue is the parking. I just, when.
That would be my concern as
That's the
well.
only thing. I think is you open the door for a lot of people to have a lot of options to start small or bring their small office from a larger unit to something like this, but the parking, you can't, not everybody's gonna be just one person come and see me or see that individual. But that would be my only concern, is just the parking issue. So
I
if we
appreciate.
look at it as we go, that would be.
I appreciate that concern. I appreciate that. We will, that's a concern of ours as well. We don't want it to be underparked. No developer wants their product to be underparked. It's a huge problem after the fact. And so we will drill down on the parking requirements and the needs. I'll speak more to this other project, what they looked at as far as parking requirements, guest parking, and what they're seeing as far as parking that's coming in now. Do they see that they've got only one customer at a time? Is it two? It is a small enough commercial component to each unit that you can't do too much there. There's not that much square footage to do much. So it wouldn't lend itself to a business that would have a lot of traffic. And maybe that's also something that needs to be written into the HOA that would limit the uses and thereby limiting the traffic as well.
Well, you
Picking
don't want to take
uses
away
that,
your guest parking that you have in there. You've got spaces for that for the tenants. You don't want that to become
right,
what's being used, but.
right. You don't want to be in competition between customers
Yeah.
and residents.
And residents.
Other residents that aren't part of the work live,
Right.
they would be a little bit miffed, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Their guest parking was being used by customers.
But I think it's a great concept.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We'll take that under consideration, that parking issue. Thank you.
The other thing might be limiting the number of units that would be allowed to be commercial.
Absolutely.
Which would then take care, if you had everybody that wanted to do commercial on the bottom, then that would mean way too much parking.
I totally agree, Chairperson. These units could be marketed, if the council desired, if you guys desired, the city desired, these could be marketed as just regular residential units with no commercial. Although I do see the value in adding that and making it a part of it. Because it's a potential, it's a possibility, and why not? You mentioned the walkability, retail on the bottom, and housing above. I think we're going to see more of that, where the cost of development, especially the cost of land, increases, the cost of materials increase. I think you're going to see more and more of us building up like that.
Well, and with the volume of homeowners between the two locations, I mean, a small bakery, dance studio, something like that. I mean, you look at the number of children that are gonna be, it would be an ideal spot for somebody to do something like that.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, a small little bakery making
Yeah.
some confectionaries,
Yeah.
a small little, the one down here, I see one masseuse table in that room.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be you're not gonna have a lot of clients coming in, but it's a starting business, and it's a place for a lot of professionals to work from home. A lot of them are working from home anyway, aren't they? Because of COVID. And so
Well, there's
this,
a lot working
this is
from
a
home.
this is a product that they're actually gonna be looking at, because they're like, hey, I'm already working from home. Why work out of my office in LA and deal with the peaceful protests? I'll live in Providence
Maybe
and
a
I'll just zoom into my meetings.
maybe a percentage of those,
I think the number,
Houses.
yeah, absolutely.
of those dwellings would be commercial and maybe a change in our.
Sure. There's a lot of steps to go through a concept and
Right.
preliminary plat, final plat, there's a lot more steps. Make sure our discussion is still about rezone. We're talking about commercial being rezoned to multifamily. Just keep in mind, one point I would say is we have a fairly high number of home-based businesses throughout. So even if they didn't have these solely commercial, they could still do some of that home-based business without this. So really the question is are you willing to consider, and then it'd have to come back for a public hearing, but are you willing to consider this area to be changed from commercial to multifamily medium? That's really the question. And we get into this, we have a tendency of building deep into ones, but he's gonna have a lot of comments and a lot of work to come actually to get to a concept plan that's approved. So anyway, just.
The one
making sure
question that I
we
do have about the rezone, and that is there a height requirement? 3 stories, is that an issue?
There's a height requirement in the ordinances already.
I read 45 or 50 the last time I went through it.
45.
I think it's 50 in the.
Principal use, max height in feet, 50 in the medium family multifamily, the medium.
And that was updated in the last.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I thought it was 45 or 42. I don't think
And the building is.
our building would be under that. I think it would be under 45, those 3 stories.
What was the term you used, Mike?
Work, live.
Work, live.
Yeah, I've heard people say work, live, work. Maybe if the live part of the building is a more percentage than the work, it's a live work. If it's more work than live, I don't.
Great, thank you.
Is that all?
As far as the parking, have a lot of parking. Just change the speed limit from 30 to 25. I drive that thing 25 anyway.
You're probably one of the few.
I was going to say I walked that and there's a lot.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our bylaw discussion. You've had a time to go through that.
Suggestion,
Yes,
it's 3.2.
Yep.
Yep. What do you think about changing that last sentence to reflect the vice chair also? Our suggestion was that the chair could be nominated and for the following year. What about the vice chair?
valid point.
That's okay.
Discussion on that?
I think that's a great idea. I think if something's working really well,
Leave it alone.
leave it alone, for a while.
Well, and people can decide for themselves. If they don't want to, they can say No. Laura, what do you think? You're back. Thank you.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay,
I agree.
Joe, you started this discussion. Yes. What do you think? Okay. Okay, is this something we can take action on? We need to get the wording exactly on here.
My question is, do you just want to delete the last line?
And that would do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And then is there anything else that you looked at that you wanted to change?
I didn't see anything in particular. Joe, did you see anything?
One sentence before that last line states the prior chair and vice chair shall remain in office until successors take office at the next regular. Oh, that's if we didn't vote. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to do that.
Well, this is a
we do
discussion
it?
item.
We can't do this till next time.
Right, so we'll come back and we'll have it, so that you, as an action item, so that you can recommend the change to the city council. to
Okay.
approve your bylaws.
Okay.
I think it says the entire quorum needs to
Unanimous.
vote in the. Where did I see that?
So everyone needs to weigh in.
Be
on
on
it.
board with it, yeah.
Just says you have to have a quorum.
I thought
Doesn't say
somewhere it said it had to
100%.
be unanimous, that the quorum
Yeah,
needed to be unanimous, is what I
I
thought.
read
Right.
that somewhere.
I think the suspension of the rules was a unanimous
Yes.
vote of those
Right.
present. One other item you might consider is whether you want a term limit. If you want to have it to be a certain number of years that chair can serve. There is benefits of having a chair that multiple people, I think we have great experience with Bob having been a chair. I think there's some value in having that. This one became so short. If you had a term, that's something else for you to consider. You have that, you have a 2-year limit, a 3-year limit. What was the purpose of why I was here and why would you want to? You're discussing. You want to consider that.
in the 9 years I've been involved with this, I've never seen a chair want to continue. And I was one of those.
Well, there are some responsibilities that come along with it in some of the meetings, but there's always the issue if there's a chair that needs to leave. But I don't know if that's happened or not. Any discussion on, do we want to put a term limit on it?
I don't think that's a bad idea. 3 years?
3 years.
What are the limits for the commission members? Is it
3 years.
is 3 years? Well, then that makes sense. To do 3 years. Okay. So we'll need to consider that when we take action next time. Is looking at,
Add another line in there.
oh, it would be another section, wouldn't it? It'd be 3.5.
So then wouldn't you just say the chair can serve no more than 3 consecutive terms?
Can we just add that to the 3.2?
That. What do you think, Joe? Does that sound okay?
I always have to have the language in front of me to look
Okay.
at it. And
Well, I'll start with that for you to look at.
Simple is best. And if we can just add it to 3.2 and replace this sentence that's on there, that would be great.
That's what we'll start with then.
Okay. All right. This next item is one that I asked to put on here because it's a problem that I've experienced and am experiencing at the moment. Let me give you some background. I bought a little home on Main Street. And it has teeny tiny windows in one part of it, of the basement. And cinder blocks, or not cinder blocks, but glass blocks in another part of the basement. So there is no egress available. The way the sewer was installed in this home, it was installed 4 feet off the ground, the length of the home in the basement, which makes it so that I can't put a 4x3, 6 egress window in that portion of the basement, which only leaves me the end, which, the end of the house, which makes the setback is 10 feet from the foundation to the edge of the property. And the ordinance says that I can go 2 feet into that setback. But in order for me to make an egress window, an egress code for egress is 3 feet. It doesn't impede anything coming by the house. This particular one, it won't impede it because there's a road. There's a roadway that goes into a lot that's behind this particular lot. But for me, I can put a 2-foot window or a 2-foot egress. Actually, you can egress from 2 foot, but it will not meet code. So I can't do anything about where the house is. I can't drag it over or do anything, but I cannot call that a bedroom now because it's not big enough for a big fire person to get down in to rescue somebody in the basement. I can do it in the front, and I'm planning to do that in the front, but I can't do it on the end of the house. And do we have a copy of that code
Yeah.
in here?
Question is it possible for something like this for to come and request an exception to be made?
I cannot, well, I can, but they only grant it if there's some kind of a hardship or something like that.
Well, you can point this as a need for, in order that
Well,
you can have this, so you could have a fireman come in.
as I looked at this, there are lots of these homes that are older homes that are small, that have these kind of windows. And young couples are buying them and they're wanting to put a bedroom in the basement, but cannot call it a bedroom because it doesn't meet code. Now, if code is 3 feet, why can I only go 2 feet? Is the question.
Can you tell me what you mean by 2 feet or 3 feet?
Away from
Typically
the
we-
house. So when you put a window well in,
Yes,
code,
yeah,
like on my house,
Okay,
I
so you're
have a
talking about
3
your
foot
window
from the
well.
house
Yeah.
out.
Right.
Gives enough room for,
for an adult to get in there or an adult to get out.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I
right, my
understand.
windows,
Yeah.
well, you could get 2 people in
So you're saying that the code says that you cannot encroach into the setback
Back
more than
by-
2 feet,
there, correct?
but in order for a window well to be put in.
And
it
for a
needs
bedroom
really
to
for
be
that- for that
safe.
window that size.
Right, right.
So the biggest thing is for the size of the window to allow for an adult to get in and out. But you also have to have a window well if it's
Correct.
basement type thing. So it's the
Correct.
window well issue.
Yes,
I think we have a lot of homes like that.
You
we do.
Is your window a 4 foot or 5 foot window? You use it, or you
The
use
window
your-
that I'm going to install is 4 foot.
That's why you need 3 feet.
No,
No, the window well,
The-
your
it's
window
4
well.
foot
I
wide
understand.
and 3.6
3
long,
foot out,
but I can only go with a window well, I can only go 2 feet.
if you go 5 wide, can you do a 2-foot window well?
It's the
I don't
width,
think so.
you're limiting the width of an individual, an adult, to get into the window well. It's not
Matter-
so much the length. It has to be the 36 inches to get in and out of that window well for an adult, get in and out of that window well.
Fireman with an air pad.
Right.
Yeah, or even,
Right.
even just, full-size adult.
It's a building code.
Yeah,
Right.
It's a
it
building
is.
and fire safety code.
Right.
It's not the size of the window well.
Yeah.
The
Oh, it
minimum
isn't-
size of the
right.
window well is not a city code, it's a
Right.
building and safety code.
And it's not a square footage thing. It isn't make it
Right.
longer and narrow to get the square footage. It's a depth of width size.
Right.
That's the minimum.
So a fire person needs to be able to get into the window well, stoop down and get into
Yeah.
the window.
Well, and even some, they require that you have a ladder going down that window well, depending on how far it goes down. But you're right.
I
think there's
actually
a lot
bought
of
a
homes-
ladder to put in. The one in front, I could do a 3-foot, but the one on the side encroaches on the setback by 3 feet rather than 2 feet, which is code for Providence. So,
Go in the chair, you're talking about, in general setback requirements under window wells where they have 2 feet, you like to have a depth of 3 feet.
Yeah, to meet fire code, it would need to be.
Is that what you'd like to do?
the depth, well, my window is 3.6, so the depth is going to be 4 feet.
If you'd like to change that part of the code.
I want to change the part of the code that allows me to do a 3-foot,
3 feet into
Right
the
there.
setback.
3 feet into the setback rather than just 2 feet.
Yeah. Window wells, a
Window wells may encroach up to a maximum of 3 feet into the required rear yard and may encroach up to a maximum of 2 feet into a required
and
side
that's where
yard.
you want to make 3.
I want to make that 3 because 3 is the code.
The reason why we kept that at 2, we spent probably a year on these setbacks.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that there's enough room left in the setback so that the firemen can carry their equipment and actually get around the house with their hoses and everything. So
So
when
that
we-
leaves 7 feet.
Yeah.
For somebody to walk by them.
as long as you don't have a fence and landscaping.
I haven't run into this here in Providence, but I have it multiple times in Logan. And they allowed for 4 foot into the side setbacks. For what it's worth. But as much as 4 foot into that, and they have, for the sides, they had an 8-foot setback. And rear, 20 front was their setback. But the
Wow.
sides was 8, and they allowed you as much as 4 feet. But anyway, I understand. And I think your older homes, that may be an issue, certainly an issue. But isn't there something where where the reasoning is what would fire code require? Fire code would require the 36 inches. So to be in conformance, right now, our code,
But fire code doesn't require that you make bedrooms in the basement.
that's true, yeah. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. They're saying if you have to have an egress window in a basement,
If you
Um,
want a bedroom in the base,
yeah,
you have to have egress
you
window.
gotta have this window.
Right.
And fire code says, yeah, but you're absolutely right. They're not saying that you have to have a bedroom down there.
Correct.
So it still comes back to, like you said, what was the purpose for the setbacks and what is the solution?
And one of the things I think that we're kind of looking at, that you're talking about right now, is a retrofit versus a new build. Part of the problem
Right.
that we were running into was that the new builds were taking every ounce of area they could, and then their window wells weren't small that they were trying to put into the.
Well, they were rock features probably.
Yeah, we're turning them into more architectural features than the type of window well that you're looking at. So they were becoming problematic. So that's why we felt like we needed to just say on new build, or that's why we went with, we stayed, actually, I think it was always 24 inches into the side yard. And then we increased it 30 to 36 in the rear yard. But, and I think it's, I don't think they are supposed to go out in the front yard. So you've got to set your house back enough in the front yard to not have a window well extend into the front yard. So,
Into the setback of the
Setback.
front, yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of the concern that we have. The more envelope you open up for building, the more building you get. It's not that people say, oh, great, I can have more yard. They say, oh, great, I can have more building. So,
Right.
so when you're thinking about it, but when you're retrofitting, that's a little different. Unless you start expanding the walls or something, I mean, if you expand the footprint. But,
Has that been an
It
issue?
could also-
Has it been for people coming in to retrofit or rehab some of these older homes? Have we seen this on multiple occasions?
I think you're gonna see the homes that haven't had,
Right.
that have bedrooms there that haven't had that retrofit.
yeah, I think the problem is now that people are finally selling them, I don't think they've really sold, but now that people are selling them,
Yeah.
and they want to be able to say they have bedrooms in the basement, then you're going to see them. But for some people, it's not cost effective to put the window in, even if sometimes they look at that too. I
Yeah.
don't know the good answer. Unless you did some type of a thing for retrofitting a home without increasing the footprint size. Maybe then you could.
If you could be that specific in
Maybe
here.
then you could maybe keep the integrity of the setback without opening the doors to the.
And maybe saying that they have to be metal window wells. That don't take up any more space than.
Maybe it's
36
something that goes
inches.
to the variance request. The variance request, I think we said that it was based on
Hardship.
hardship or something. Maybe there's, because I think if you start retrofitting things, you're probably gonna come across a whole bunch of different things that, besides this window well issue, maybe it's something else as you start to retrofit homes.
Can you pull up 10-9A-702 and put it up on the screen for everybody to take a look at?
Of our city code.
No.
No.
Can you talk a little-
Utah code
Tell me what it is.
10-9A-702.
10-9A-702.
Dash 702. The other thing about a variance is if you're really thinking that the variance committee should look at these and grant them, if state code allows such, then if you're anticipating a lot of variances, you really should write the code to accommodate what you want,
Right.
not have them go through the stringent process of a variance.
One of the advantages of the variance, though, is that they can add conditions on what the variance is to meet the specific need of the property. That's the state code, and I think Providence follows the state code, at least the Board of Adjustments, when I was associated with it.
We do.
That's what we pretty much follow. And a variance like this, I think would be looked on favorable. I don't know if the city would oppose it, but it meets, from what I can see, the conditions 2A1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I just,
How does it meet 3?
I would say having a bedroom in the basement is enjoying the same substantial property right possessed by other properties in the same zone. I think so. This is my opinion. But a variance would obviously depend on what the city's position is in opposing it, so that the board get both viewpoints.
See, right now, if this goes through the process for us to change it, it won't do me a bit of good because I need to have this done. So that means I'm gonna put in a 2-foot window well. And I can't call it a bedroom, but I can at least feel morally that someone who is in that bedroom could egress and get out if there was a problem.
You know, if I could vote, I can't. Tonight. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but the advantage I see from a variance is the board could also, with the city's input, say, okay, if you're gonna approach upon the setback, going into the setback, then the landscaping cannot
Right.
otherwise encroach on it, so it leaves the pathway. Whereas if we try and draft an ordinance to do that, I think the same thing would be accomplished. But each property is going to be a little bit different. And can we create a uniform ordinance that's going to solve it for everyone? Well, for the majority of this, because I can't see over the horizon far enough to solve it for everybody.
What do you think, Scarlett?
I'm not an attorney, but I kind of would struggle with saying that having a bedroom in the basement is essential to the enjoyment. Because there are many of those homes that are built just like that in the area. And so you've got the same enjoyment that other people do in the area, and not in the zone. Because if you build a newer home and you build it with the bigger windows and things, but then you set your house back off the setback line. So instead of having 10 feet to your foundation, you've got 11 in a newer home. So they have to accommodate for that. So I don't know. I just really would feel like if you really feel like you're going to do a lot, crafting an ordinance, and I agree with Joe that it's impossible to craft an ordinance to meet every situation, but that's the way every one of our ordinances in land use are.
Right.
That's why we keep people like Joe in business.
Well, but how do we accommodate someone who really does want to make it safe for someone to be in the basement? I mean, if there was a problem, no one could get out of that basement except up the stairs. So I need egress windows.
Yeah, that's a true point. 'Cause, you know,
So I can't
Right
even
now-
live down in the basement at
Yeah.
all. I mean, I can't even have a TV room down there because if something happened and there was a fire, they couldn't get out. So it's a safety issue.
Scarlett's right, there are a lot of homes built like that.
Yes,
The house, when we moved to Main Street, the upstairs and downstairs are a mirror image of each other. There's a living area downstairs, there's 2 bedrooms downstairs, and the 2 bedrooms on the main floor are directly above those.
right,
But there's no means of egress
Right.
outside that window. So, but Joe makes the point about the enjoyment of property rights. And if at some point it was determined that those 2 bedrooms we have couldn't be called bedrooms, then instead of a 4-bedroom house, we'd be putting up for sale, it'd be a 2-bedroom house.
Right.
And so we overnight lost property value just by doing it.
Well,
So,
that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way.
and what some people have done, neighbor across the street, a similar house to ours, is they've opened it up, and the code was different and allowed apartments downstairs. And they made a doorway downstairs and they excavated everything else. So it was very common, not even in the 70s.
Right.
When this house was built.
this house was built in 1957. So there is no egress, no matter what you do down there, there is no egress
Right.
except up the stairs.
That's what we had.
My parents renovated my great-great-grandfather's home in North Ogden. And my bedroom that I lived in had no window. Because it didn't have an egress on it. I would lots rather, and I have no say in this anymore, I'd lots rather grant a variance favor of a safety ordinance or a safety feature, the land use. I'd love to see that happen.
So what do we do in a case like this then? How do we get the committee that looks at this to grant variance? How do we,
You apply,
okay,
just apply and take it to them and they'll study it. And if they feel like you meet that criteria that
can I testify?
Ryan had, yes. Yeah, we just held a appeal authority meeting last Thursday, right?
Only last Thursday, it seems like it was longer ago.
Two Thursdays ago.
Two Thursdays ago.
2 Thursdays ago. So, but yes, the
Can I do this
applicant,
by next Monday?
I don't
Because
think
we
you
haven't
can,
gotten the written results from the variance committee yet, so, no.
I can have them. Well, it's an issue for me because I would feel terrible if someone were trapped in that basement.
Well, they're trapped now.
Yeah,
You know, that's the thing, they're
They are.
trapped now.
Yes,
And firemen can't get there except through one entryway.
right.
You're trying to improve that, but there's also the other side of it too. And I think until the way you handle it is, in my opinion, by variances, until there's a pattern established that maybe would be more suited that a code be written to address it because there's a track record of it. But I think a lot of these older homes, that until, and as people start buying them and start retrofitting and upgrading, not only just the home, a lot of people will just go and put a window in it, you know. They'll say this is making your home more efficient and all of that, but I can guarantee you from a lot of the ones we've done, you've got to take into consideration that safety issue. The last thing you want is some legal action because the window well was not the proper size. And so it's a combination of all of that. And that code, I'm sure, has changed over the years from what was okay once before on some of these older homes. Even from the 70s in Logan, we had some that way that were just, you know, there was the window, but no way too small to get out of it.
And they opened like, we had basement windows, I lived on Fifth West, and we had basement windows that opened like this. So you would have to go up and over the top if you could even fit
Well,
through
and
that.
that's the thing now, that they have to be so far off the ground for children that they would be able to climb out of the window and things like that.
so let me ask one other question. So if you were doing a remodel and you had the option of being able to meet the current setbacks and anything, but that was a more expensive option, would you still qualify for a variance?
I wouldn't think it would. The money is not a hardship.
So you would think if they had an option, but it was more expensive, they couldn't get a variance on the less expensive option?
You know, if you're talking a reasonable amount of dollars, if it's really just a tremendous amount of dollars, then it might. But I mean, where that is flexible. But, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing a proposed language modifying that for retrofitting property. But whatever the planning commission would address at the next meeting for specific language is only going to be a recommendation of the city council.
Right. Well, and what Scarlett's alluding to is that I could put it out the back, but I've got the sewer pipe. So that means I have to trench the entire length of the basement, dig outside, find the sewer, hook up, you know, drill through the basement.
I think you were explaining a hardship of what I do. That qualifies for a variance.
I think your problem is time, isn't it? But
Well, I don't care, honestly, I don't care about being able to call it a bedroom to sell it. I'm gonna be dead by the time anybody sells that, so I don't think it's their problem.
Well, in
But-
answer to your question, just looking at the statute, it says unreasonable. that's where you start weighing in, you know, if it's $10, that's not unreasonable. 10 million, it's unreasonable. Where in between, I don't know.
Well, to trench the basement, dig out the outside, do all that kind of stuff, besides cutting the windows. You know, we're talking 5,000 maybe, to do all that.
Why do you have to cut out the sewer? Because it comes.
Because the pipe goes across where the window would go. I was gonna do it out the back.
Because it doesn't, it's not a full basement.
It is a full basement,
The sewer doesn't go coming out the bottom. of the-
correct. When they installed the sewer, they did a toilet on that end of the house, and the kitchen's in between, and then a bathroom. And instead of trenching or even laying it on the floor, they put the sewer pipe 4 feet up
On the interior of the
on the
house.
interior of the house,
Along one of the walls.
along the back basement wall. So then I would have to totally redo all of that. So it's just a better solution to go at the end. But for me, it's not, I need to have it done by the 15th, and I can't get any of this through in that amount of time. So from a moral perspective, people can egress out the side, and I'm putting a 3-foot window well in the front, so somebody could go out the front. They would still have to go past the furnace room, which, you know, if there's gonna be a fire, that's probably where it would be, but anyway. I just feel like if the standard and the code says 3 feet, we ought to be able to put 3 feet out into the setback. For a retrofitted home, not a new home that they're building.
Right, so what you're trying to do this, I believe we have to have public hearing, don't we? All right. We have to change
To
that.
change this, but not to change, not
Not-
to go
not
to
to
the
apply for a
appeal
variance.
authority.
Yeah, so the-
But it's still, the appeal authority, it would still take longer. My windows don't come in for 3 weeks. But I'm gonna dig the hole.
And we're talking about this problem that's being represented in the community. as a whole.
Well, as we have these older homes that belong to the older people and they're going into senior living centers and places like that, they're selling their homes to young couples who are gonna wanna put children downstairs, but who want their children to be safe.
My point is, it's a broader problem.
Right,
Deserves
than
to
just
be-
me, right, right. And Providence has a lot of these homes, a lot of homes that are older. You have one. You have. you have a
My
big-
neighbor.
You have bigger windows downstairs?
I have an exit. A specific exit for the downstairs.
So you have a walkout?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the issue. And so I'm saying, do we want to visit that? Do we want to change it? It does me no good because I'm moving ahead as it is. If somebody can get out, they can get out of the window, but a big fire person.
I think a variance is the way. The only other thing I would think of from a past experience, if I went to get a permit, to put, if I was changing windows, I would need to get a building permit unless they're the same size. So if I'm having to put in a larger window, I'm having to get a building permit. Through that building permit process, they should, the requirement should be that you have, if it's going to be a bedroom, it has to be the egress window. The room has to have at least one egress window, and you have to have the window well, and it would have to show it in the setback. All that would have to be approved at that time. I think what you've seen a lot of, and what we've seen in the past, I've said that's the process I've had as we've gone through to get those permits. You have a lot of people that just change out the windows and never get a permit. And so you may have something, don't even have window wells or to what size, or they put it into the setback and it's a violation of the setback, because they probably put a bigger window well. But I think you should go through the retrofitting stuff. As younger people are buying these older homes or investors or whatever, they're going to come for variances just think you're gonna see a lot of different requests. I think the variance process is the way until you see a pattern. Laura?
Good point.
Do you have anything?
Do you want to weigh in?
Understand your predicament, Kathleen. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I understand your predicament, and really it's the essence of time, which is the problem.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with the variance route only because each home is going to have a little different need there until there's a pattern in how that was brought up. But maybe the variance can be passed through pretty quickly.
Yeah,
If-
I'm,
You apply
but I do have a building permit. You know, I've been through the process to make sure.
Yeah.
That would not look good for the planning commission chair to have. To not be getting the correct permits and all that stuff that is needed, but I need to follow the code. And I understand that unless it was a true hardship, that I would not receive a variance. So I chose to not even go that direction. But I don't know, maybe I still can.
I would think that would be the way. I think that's your key.
I agree.
I think there's a case for it. You know, I need to meet fire code, to upgrade my home and meet safety requirements. I need this extra.
And it has nothing to do with when I'm gonna sell it, because I'm not gonna sell it.
Regardless.
Has
of-
nothing to do with that, but trenching and taking care of the sewer is just like, that's out of control.
Yeah, that's a whole different. issue.
Yeah.
But bringing things like that, particularly for safety, to everyone's purview, if there starts to be a pattern or it's something that comes in, then that may be a time to look at that type of code change.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it doesn't come up, then, who's to say a year from now, someone else is doing the same thing and has the same safety item, and things are going on that should be addressed.
And that's the kind of thing that makes people not want to get a building permit too.
Right?
Yeah.
And just-
I'll just do it and not get a permit.
But they need to do it, otherwise there's
Right.
tremendous liability.
Right.
Right.
But it is a safety issue, and that also creates a window. So the basement is in two halves. And I'm gonna put one on the front, and the other bedroom I'm talking about is directly to the east of that on the other side of the basement. So there is no egress. There will be no safety egress from that side of the house. Now, somebody can egress, hard word to say now, but somebody could ingress, if that's a word, to ingress to get in. But it would be tight. If somebody were very big, they wouldn't be able to.
Your real
Get out
key
of
is,
there.
your real problem is the issue of calling it being a designated bedroom.
Correct. Correct.
Those things have to have egress window and they have to have a closet. Those are the things.
It has a closet already.
It can be
Yeah.
a room and there could be one door out at this end, and even though it's far away and there could be a fire in the middle, it's still a way out.
Right,
But when you make it designated as a bedroom, that's where those code issues take effect.
right. And I get that, and it will be a bedroom. I know the people will do it as a bedroom. So anyway,
I think the question for us is, do we want to change the code now? Or just leave it as it is?
I think if the variance process could work for this sort of thing, I think that's the way we need to go to see how many,
I agree.
So we want to leave the code alone.
yes.
I would suggest that until we see
Right.
an issue.
Good idea. Okay. So we're at the end of our agenda. So for next time, we will have a public hearing.
And that next time is,
Will be, we don't,
23rd?
will we have enough to go the 23rd?
Only if there's agenda items, otherwise it would be.
Right now, the only agenda item I think we'll probably have to let you know.
Well, my problem is, if you want to have it on the, if you want to go for the 23rd, then I need to, and you want that public hearing, I need to send that to the paper
Soon.
tomorrow, so that
Yeah.
they, or Friday morning at the latest, better tomorrow, so that they have time to publish it. If you don't go then, it's October the 2nd, 14th. Because you have 5 Tuesdays or 5 Wednesdays.
Okay, well, you know what's in the pipeline. Do you think we ought to have one on the 23rd, or are we good for the,
I don't think they're in a hurry, and I'm assuming that they would expect it to be at 14.
okay,
I don't think they're, I don't know that they're in a rush, really.
I don't
They've never mentioned that.
I don't know that they're in a rush. I think, especially with their, sounds like they're still kind of going through their plan a little bit.
right,
With their last minute stuff, but any developer wants to get through sooner than later. But no, our, all of the other developments, we are waiting. Well, I have to look at 2 of them that came in. But I don't think they would be ready to come to you, because they wouldn't be ready for concept plan or preliminary plat.
Okay.
And the ones that are ready for preliminary plat haven't submitted their preliminary plats yet, so. We're waiting
so we're good till October 14th.
for what we have right now on our table. Yes, I'll do a double check tomorrow morning, and if not, I'll let you know, but I think the 14th would work.
Okay. I also need to have reflected in the minutes that Brian Marble indicated that at the last minute, he's tied up doing trees, down trees, just couldn't get away. So he would be excused.
One other announcement. Cleanup, Proud Canyon, September,
Next week,
Monday, Tuesday,
Saturday.
yes, Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. 19th, 21st, 22nd, am I right?
14th, 15th, and 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of September,
Mhm.
14th, 15th, and 19th.
In the evening on the 14th and 15th, and then in the morning on the 19th.
Which is a Saturday.
I can't remember when, is it 5 or 6 they're starting? 5?
So 6
Did you get
o'clock
that,
on
Laura? Can you hear?
Yes,
Okay.
I
Sunday,
put that in our local school paper too.
Oh, okay, good.
10 o'clock on Saturday.
Okay, 10 o'clock on Saturday. 6
6 o'clock.
on Monday.
On Monday the 14th,
Okay,
7 o'clock on Tuesday the 17th.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, Tuesday the 15th, and then
10 o'clock on Saturday,
the 19th.
the 19th. Okay. Good. And the commission members, I sent each of you an email about some things that we're looking for Parks and Rec for you to answer those.
Yes.
The survey. And for the streets, we need the survey answered for the street. And then also, if you are not registered for the pipeline, if you would please do that.
On the street survey, when you go in, and one of the questions I think is something like, where do you feel, what is your biggest concern, or which streets are you concerned with? You can do multiple streets. You can do one, and then it'll pop up again, and you can do another one.
Okay.
So it's not limited to just one, but
And
so
then
when you do it, it can be a really good survey.
the Parks and Rec one is up until when? When is that up?
We'll have it up till the 19th.
Till the 19th. So if you've got social media, if you can send it out to people and ask them to please participate in that. And we'd like to have feedback from everybody in the city, obviously, but maybe if you have to hold some hands, ask them to please fill out the survey. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take very long. It might take 10 minutes at the longest, I think, to fill that out. If that, yeah. So please do that. But if you're not registered for the pipeline, it was valuable to me. I got the message on the pipeline that there was a water main, a water pipe break. And then the one about the bins being full. So it's good to have that information come to you so you can tell your friends and neighbors that, they'll get information about stuff that's going on in Providence. If they'll just put their name on there. And there's lots of stuff you can check out off. I'm not sure what I checked off when I registered for it. And Tara said she was gonna look and see, because I couldn't get back to it to see what I checked. And I couldn't, so that if I wanted information on more things, that I could check more of them. So. Anyway.
So how do you get back access to your account? So you can-
Right, so that I could maybe
Modification.
change what I want, information.
You know what?
There's
I
a way to
don't,
do
you
that.
gotta put that in the newsletter because I'm sure there's enough people that, since they initially signed up, that say, I'd like to know what's going on with
Right,
parks or recreation events or
Right.
pickleball or whatever.
so if we could get that information, that would be great. One more thing, there's a music in the park on September 18th, which is a Friday night
7 o'clock.
at 7 o'clock. Please at least show up. Ryan came on his birthday. He left his birthday celebration to come to it.
It was my birthday party. I left. My birthday was actually the other day, but the next day, but it was the celebration. that I
I love
did
the
leave.
celebration.
I did leave my birthday party in order to come to be there, and I did not see any of you there.
Yes, and I had a last minute thing that came up to help a neighbor and I had to go to that, but I will be there on the 18th and love to see your smiley faces. Okay, we need to adjourn. No?
I move that, I move that we close this meeting.
Okay, do we have a
I'll
second?
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Laura, for coming. Are you doing good with your school?
Still there. Yeah, we're doing good.
You haven't had to close down. You had to quarantine somebody though, didn't you?
We've had some quarantines already. Yeah. But everybody's doing okay, so that's the main thing, but
But keep up the good work.
pretty
Thank-
active. Thanks, guys. Nice to see you.